Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll.
Taking a breath in. Close your eyes. And perhaps with that sound current still vibrating inside you, you feel yourself as the relative of the blue whale, as the record keeper. Breathing softly and deeply into your heart. Thanking your ancient old soul, Akash, for the music, for the vibration, for the opportunity right here, right now, today, to dive more deeply into your own consciousness, into that beautiful place where there is oneness for you. Keeping that oneness inside your heart. Hoping and waiting is not anything you have to do anymore. Being. Begin the being in this new beginning of 2020. As you give yourself this year, this opportunity for your beingness to come into a clear focus, a time of awareness when you honor who you are becoming, and all that is available for you.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the first channeling of the year 2020. And I want to start it with something I've said many times. You sit here in this audience, perhaps you listen apart from this audience. And I want to repeat the premise of the channeling, of the reason my partner sits in this chair. What it's all about. Because the information this year is pointed and profound more than normal. Because you are moving into new energies that have already started occurring right here. There is a creator, and most of the world believes this. One God. There is a creator. And the story is far grander and greater than any of you can imagine, because there is a veil. A veil that keeps you from seeing the majesty of your soul. Every single human being who hears this and listens today in the chair has a beautiful, magnificent part of them which is called the soul. This is also something believed by billions of people on the planet. The soul is the part that is divine, the part that lives forever. And so almost all of humanity already has the concept of a beautiful, loving, benevolent, glorious God. And the soul? So many don't understand that the soul is not standalone energy. It belongs to this creator. That's where you came from. So there's really two parts to every single human being. There's actually more, but the basic two that billions believe is the corporeal human. That is the body, the vehicle you walk around in. And the divine part, the soul. And up to now, in the energies of the years that humans have been on the planet, the soul is something not understood, not acknowledged, not really. You understand it's there, and you learn about it by the shamans and the teachers and the religions, but you don't really understand and work with it until now. If I could give you a principle of what is happening in the new energy that has never happened before, it is the merge of the soul and the corporeal. It has interesting attributes that some of you are experiencing. Number one, the soul knows everything. Therefore, some of you are starting to receive knowledge truly that is part of a knowingness that you realize you were never taught. It's a knowingness that is beyond esoteric. It is a knowingness of practical spirituality. There's a reason you're here. There's a mechanism, if you want to call it that, of physics that applies to all things, including your soul. Multidimensionality is starting to occur. And so in this new energy, what you start to see and what you start to experience is that meld. And it explains so many who sit here with knowledge they don't understand where it came from. And some of you question it, and some of you don't. You realize what it is, where it came from, and how beautiful it is. What's a human being going to do with that? That is the lesson at hand, not today. But it will be the subject of more channels. What do you do with information that starts to become merged with your corporeal self? Is everyone getting it? The answer is no. The old souls are. The ones who haven't gone through the school of life many times are not. And it's not about privilege, dear ones. It's about experience. If you're in a school, you acknowledge the ones who just showed up don't know as much as the ones who are graduating. This is practical. So the old soul on the planet who has been here over and over and over and over is starting to receive information. But that's not the subject of today. This beautiful, benevolent God of yours, the one that you share consciousness with, are you ready for that? That soul of yours has a divine consciousness from the Creator, and it's starting to be part of that which is your consciousness. Of course, there is love and benevolence, but it starts to alter something. It's very basic, and that is going to be the subject of this channel and the one that follows later tonight. Now, those listening who will say, well, where can I find that later tonight channel? I'll tell you, if you ask that, you're not listening in the right place. My partner has created in social media a place where all of these channels are. Don't miss the next one. Find it. It's not that hard. The subject is duality. The number of the year should have given you a clue. It's a master number, dear ones. In certain kinds of numerology, the 0 is treated with a value. In Tibetan, it is not. So the year 2020 becomes the number 22. It's a master number, and it really starts to stand for something you have no idea or concept of, called cosmic law. You know it as duality. So this channel is going to revisit duality. But in this energy, dear ones, I got to call it like it is. I told my partner years ago, in the shower, where he receives so much information. He said to me, I don't want to channel if I'm a fool. If I come across as a fool, who's going to believe it? And that's when I gave him one of the first premises that he now teaches, apart from channeling, that he teaches. And that is this, that the spirituality is not esoteric. It must be real. It must be practical. It must work. Therefore, you don't have something that you simply float around and hope it works. Or you become part of a very isolated group of people nobody wants to talk to because you're just too strange. Instead, it must be grounding and practical and real. And that, my friends, is benevolence and love and compassion. All of those things. Every mother understands those things. That's real. I said that to him, and that was the point at which he said, I'm on board. Duality has been presented to this planet as a fallacy. If you define duality, normally the definition starts out like this. It's the struggle between good and evil. A more elegant would say it's a struggle between light and dark, and none of those things are accurate. Duality was presented to you and given to you as a gift, and it's a beautiful gift of free choice to determine your own path, dear ones, where your consciousness will take you and go. It's one of the most beautiful gifts. The story goes like this in the Garden of Eden. We're going to go to Scripture. We're going to go to a place that is so well known and understood for this example. How many times have we told you that that story is a metaphor? The garden is the earth. Of course, it's Gaia, beautiful Gaia. Adam represents all men, Eve represents all women. And the whole idea of what took place there was intervention. An angel came down, according to Scripture, and touched the human beings and gave them something they never had before. They went from animals on the planet to divine beings with free choice who had a soul. That's the story. And by the way, we have given you even more details about that story. We're not doing that again. Let's stay with that one, because that one is the one that so many who would listen to this would understand. These things must be logical and practical and beautiful. Every one of you sit there as a beautiful creation by the most loving source that you can imagine. I don't have words to tell you about the creative source that lives in you, who always has their hand out, if you want to say. Did you hear that was plural? Who always has their hand out. Spirit is not singular. It's an energy that is everywhere. The creative source is not a individual. It's not a male with a beard. It's loving. It's benevolent. It's gorgeous. I want you to hold that for a moment and compare it to the story of duality. Again, as the story unfolds and the mythology happens, you were given free choice in this garden on this earth, and right away, you made a bad choice. That's the story. Now that is believable. Let me give you an example. Mother, Dad, you have some children in a room and they're just growing up, and you're giving the option of a salad or a chocolate bar. Now the children don't know any better. They've had no experience at all with either of these things. They don't understand the principles, the nutrition, They don't understand what's going to happen if they eat chocolate bars all their life. They don't understand any of these things. All they see is the chocolate bar is got to be better than the salad. And so they all go for the chocolate bar. You might say they made an error. They made a mistake. And at that point in time, they'll learn. Because sooner or later, they'll get sick on the chocolate and turn to the salad. And there's even been evidence that scientific research of children doing just that. But the premise is this: you don't know any better. And when you're given new things and new paradigms and given choices in those things, you don't always then go for the best choice simply because it sits there. The angels came down and gave humanity free choice to do whatever they wanted to, and all that was there was presented for them, the salads and the chocolate bars. And they made a mistake. What do you do with a child who makes that mistake? In that room are the children. Well, if you follow the mythology of spirituality, all of the children are now punished. Not only that, their ancestors are punished. Not only that, that chocolate decision is going to last thousands of years, and you're going to be tortured for it. That is the prevailing philosophy of the chocolate and the salad. Billions of people right now perceive God with a stick. God with a stick. Dear ones, that's not the God in you. The creative story has a mistake being made and you're punished forever for it. Does that sound practical, reasonable? Does it sound like what a divine God would do? Would you do it with your children? And how that then became the mythology of today's belief is understandable because of the energy that has prevailed until this time. There was nothing better, really. Old souls start to wake up. This channeling is not meant to make anyone wrong. It's meant to awaken an explosion to spiritual logic. That soul of yours is magnificent, and so are you. Don't let anyone tell you you were born dirty. That is mythology. And it's a mythology that makes no sense at all to a God that is beautiful, who created you in the image of love. All of you, created in his, her image. The image of love. Not the image of punishment or torture. Even today, billions believe that when they die, they'll go meet an angel. And if you don't come up to some standard, that angel is going to send you to a place that was prepared by a fallen angel because of a war in heaven. Does it get any worse than this? This is the children's story of the age, dear ones. This is Kryon getting practical, telling it like it is. It doesn't make sense. That love which so many religions feel of the love of God is totally and completely accurate. Now erase the part of the punishment, of the torture, of the evil, of that which is a decision of watching you and deciding if you're good or bad. That's not free choice. God did not give you free choice and immediately judge you on your choice. I redefine duality because of what's next, what I'm talking about tonight. Duality is the beauty of having free choice of light and dark. Did I say struggle? Sometimes those free choices of light and dark will create struggle. And that is human nature at this moment in time before it starts to shift, that you always expect the worst. And it's in your verbiage. The struggle between light and dark is the old paradigm, the old words. It's not a struggle if you make the right decision. So duality right now starts to shift. This is the year of cosmic law. This is the year of duality. And that means you're going to start seeing light and dark exposed. But the exposition of it is not going to come necessarily from your news. It's going to come first with humanity, who see things that are not correct, and then it becomes news instead of the other way around. Let me ask you a question. Going back to the salad and the chocolate, let me ask you a question. What if Adam and Eve, looking at the salad and the chocolate, this is a metaphor, without being blindfolded or simply choosing the one that smelled better, which they did, what if the salad came with a lineage of information, and so did the chocolate? What if they could appear and look at them and they weren't simply things on a plate, but somehow there was a knowingness of which one to go for? Welcome to 2020, because duality is going to start talking to you. This is the meld between that which is the corporeal consciousness, which is very limited to all things three-dimensional, that would always choose chocolate, or a multidimensional meld with that which has information even about the simplest things. How many of you are now discerning things differently as you look at situations? And you'll say, I'm not really aware of that. Oh, really? Why are you sitting here? You discern truth. And you know it when you hear it, don't you? Now that's in this meeting because it's an esoteric meeting. Now project that in the future to a situation where you have to choose a political candidate. In the future, not now. 10 years from now, whatever. Where instead of a choice based upon your party or what your parents told you, you can read them. As they talk to you, you can see what's under the hood. Imagine such a thing. Imagine knowing when a situation is true or false. Just around you. Just when you go into places, having a sense of knowingness, of benevolence, as opposed to non-benevolence. To be able to have coherence instead of chaos and know the difference where you're steered to certain places. Then you don't have a blindfold on anymore. Then you're not a child anymore, selecting things that might smell better. Now you're informed. That is the new duality. Tonight I want to tell you where that's going to take you because, dear ones, the veil is being lifted. It's being lifted. In all walks of life, in all things, in all paradigms, spirituality and science and education, social, it's being lifted. We'll talk a little bit about that so you might recognize some of these things as they start to happen. They're already starting. And you're going to have to make decisions on whether things are accurate or not, or true or not, proper or not. Not based upon old feelings, old soul, but an intuition that starts to flow into you. The what-ifs that you never saw before. I'll talk about this new intuition and how it might talk to you, old soul, when we convene later. This is duality. It's beautiful. It's not a struggle. It's free choice to go to the light or the dark. It's free choice without the burden of God with a stick. God with a stick, dear ones, is the human version. That's you with a children's story. That's human consciousness. That's not God consciousness. Everything about that is human. God is so far above that. I have no words. There are no human words to tell you how beautiful God inside is, with that handout that says, isn't it time you put away childish things and saw a grand truth in your life that will give you peace for the rest of your life no matter what happens. You become more of the soul than of the human. And that's called ascension. I'll be back. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I want this to be part 2 of the message we started this morning about free choice and duality. And in the session this morning, we redefined duality. Instead of a struggle that so many people believe, it's a choice. And I made a statement that duality is one of the most beautiful divine things you have. Free choice to make decisions, to change your life, to change your planet, all these things. It is not something that was given as you have been told, so that you would be then judged. And we described the whole concept of God with a stick. And we said that this was a human concept, not a divine one. Free choice is the key. However, it's changing. And what is changing, dear ones, is obvious even in your culture today since 2012. And before I can really enhance this message to say what it is that's changing, let me give yet another time the example. If you give children the choice between a salad and a chocolate bar, they'll go for the chocolate bar. And part of that is the immaturity of not knowing better, of not having any experience with eating chocolate for a month, or any of the things nutritionally that you know. Now that is a repeat because I want to plug it in here for those who have not heard it. So free choice is often tempered by what you know. It's often tempered by the experience that you've had. And that is why, dear ones, old souls are so important today. The cycle that you will claim as your soul cycle, and others will call reincarnation, is critical to what happens on this planet. Where as you continue, the old soul starts to have an akash which begins to awaken when the time is right. And the awakening of the akash is to an influential feeling, an intuitive feeling of what works and what does not. Now there's more. And here is where it goes to a place you didn't expect. And for those in the room who have just heard the teacher, Greg, it will fit very well to his scientific message about this entire planet. And the question, is it a plan? Dear Kryon, are humans controlled? That's a good question. The answer is no. This plan that exists right here, on this planet, right this moment, was created by you. Every single one of you has that soul that we've spoken of that is outside that reality, beyond the veil. It's you in a different place. And that you in a different place is who we're talking about. Who has created this plan that exists on this planet. Kryon, he didn't answer the question, are we controlled? The answer again is no, but I will tell you that there are things that would seem like it. So I'll make the statement right now, and we've said it before. The earth is delivered energies that it deserves. Now that may be something you think is controlled. Who's doing the delivery? You are. So let's examine that for just a moment. You're at the end of a cycle. The indigenous told you what it was. We have described it over and over. And you begin a time where things seem to be changing. And we're not simply talking about the weather. We're talking about consciousness. Here's the statement that I will make. Things that you need for the next step in the next cycle are delivered by the level of consciousness on the earth. In a low consciousness planet, you will not find much change, especially that in consciousness. And that's what you've seen for hundreds of years. You continue to do dysfunctional things. War. It seems like you haven't learned much. That's a low consciousness attribute. But we told you that the end of a cycle allows for change. A long time ago, the indigenous described what the change might be. And in the cycles where they would track the consciousness of the planet's potential, there was the statement, even from those, some of whom are alive today, who said that if you make it past the cycle of 2012, the potential is for one of the highest consciousnesses of humanity that the earth has ever seen. Welcome to a new cycle. I want to show you something. It's not proof, it's a coinky-dinky. Did you notice that all of the major inventions on this planet seem to happen at the same time globally? Did you know that the Wright brothers only beat the French by a couple of weeks? They were working on the same thing, powered flight. All of these things that you have in medicine, in electricity, were all being developed simultaneously as though something had come to the earth and said, here's something new for all of you. Go research that. Don't you find that a little coincidental? That the planet seems to be given these things all at once. There's something new. We have talked about this for the last 10 years. I'm going to reiterate a question that I gave last month. One of the ending channels. This one was in Newport in California. And I said, isn't it interesting that you've known about magnets for decades, perhaps for hundreds of years, and you've seen that the power of a magnet lasts seemingly forever, and it does. And even the study of magnetics is a mystery. But what you did know is that there is a push-pull available from every set of magnets. Some of them so strong that if you don't get your finger out of the way, you can be injured. That's power. But when it came to you developing motors, you decided to go to the internal combustion engine instead of magnets. Magnets could have been used easily for those pistons. Push and pull, no fuel needed. Why is it that you didn't go there? You didn't think about it. The best minds involved on this planet, developing the engines of the cars that you drive, didn't go there. 10 years ago, we told you a new power is coming. It has to come. It will be magnetic. It must come because of the climate change, and we told you that. And we told you why. We told you the demise of the grid, of the infrastructure of a grid. It's going to fail. And it will fail because of the climate change. And there has to be new technology. And we have said this over and over. I will tell you, 2020 is the year. It's here. And some of you will start seeing this in this year or the next years. And it will finally come of age. Magnetic engines, magnetic power sources, things that are independent on buildings and homes and clinics that have nothing to do with the power grid. This is here. And when you look at the science of it and you start to examine the nuts and bolts of how it's done, you're going to say, what took us so long? It's obvious. All given at the same time, right now. Desalinization of water is coming in a very elegant way, very scientific way, and when it arrives, desalinization in real time without heat. When it arrives, and it will soon, you're going to look at it and you're going to say, what took so long? Why am I giving you all of this information when we're talking about free choice? Because with your free choice comes something else. This cycle, it ended. And the one that you're in now that begins comes with new energies. Things being delivered to this planet because consciousness is starting to increase. You may take a look at your news and you will say, doesn't look like it got any better to me. And I will tell you this, you're looking at a few. You're not looking at humanity. You're looking at old paradigms that stick. You're looking at a philosophy that said that what happened yesterday will repeat tomorrow. And that is not so. Not anymore. Not anymore. So let's go back to the salad and the chocolate. What if you're presented with free choice options and they're not as obvious as salad and chocolate? What if they look the same? In an old energy, dear ones, the potentials were 50%, you'd get it right. Not anymore. And I'll tell you why. Because now the salad's going to talk to you. And the chocolate's going to talk to you. Because now those choices will come with something you didn't expect. Intuition. This is a raise of consciousness, now listen, that's going to make the decisions of humanity a lot better. Because now you're going to see in advance, intuitively, the result of a poor choice. Did you hear that? That is coming, and mainly to old souls. Now, what I've said before and what you should know is some of the major old souls, including some inventors, are returning now in very young bodies. Don't make up your mind when you see somebody under 20 that they don't know what they're talking about. One of them may have the Akash of a man named Tesla. Others may have the Akash of a man named Einstein. Or perhaps not the Akash, but at least that which we will call a soul exchange. Very difficult to explain. But we have said before to you many times that the soul itself is not singular. It's multidimensional, many places, all at the same time. just like the Spirit you call the creative source, just like God. How can God listen to 1 billion prayers all at once and you think nothing of it? That is multidimensionality. What if I told you your soul was the same? There are things that you are only now starting to come online with that are possibilities and perceptions. What if this planet started to have a new kind of duality? Instead of it having that old paradigm of a struggle between light and dark, it now is obvious. Not only is it a free choice between two energies, it comes with explanation. If you're intuitive, you'll get it. If you're not, it's back to 50%. This new consciousness in this new cycle is offering up something. And those free choices with those kinds of intuition, they create integrity. You want to see the result of this already in a society that you live in? It has nothing to do with metaphysics or old souls as you know them, or people who would come to a meeting like this. It's right in front of you. Duality, the year of duality, the year of change, when the white gets whiter and the black gets blacker. And dear ones, humans in general are going to start having a better intuition of what is correct and not correct. Correct and not correct for your culture, for your earth, for your time. Not for some rules given to you in a book. But what makes spiritual sense, integrity, compassion, and you're already starting to see it. I could start listing, as I have again, the things that you've seen that people would say you would never see, ever. How long have certain spiritual leaders been abusing young children? 3 years, 4 years, 5, 20, 30, 100? Longer. And how could such an abomination take place for so long? And the answer is because there was never a consciousness that would call it what it was and correct it. They were either too powerful, there was too much money, or too dangerous. And suddenly it all collapsed. And now it is the subject of the organization. Can you control it? Can you deal with it? What's going to happen next? Did you know that in one country alone, over 30 bishops were asked to resign over this issue by the current Pope? And they did. We told you when Pope Francis appeared that he'd be different. We also told you that he is the reincarnate of Francis of Assisi. Years ago, we told you that the Pope would not survive as a Pope, and he didn't. And everyone expected him to die. And instead, you got a wild card. A new Pope with a new consciousness, with the other one not dying. Dear ones, I want you to think about this. This happened at the end of the cycle. The new cycle demanded that because you couldn't have that situation exist. You couldn't have it continue. You couldn't sustain something like that. And today, it's all being looked at. How many women in this assembly or listening to this expected there would be a day when there would be an accountability from the past of those who abused them? Abused them in so many ways in the workplace and at home. That there'd be a day of reckoning even for the powerful. That you can't do that anymore. This is not a women's issue. It's a human integrity issue. And you have it beginning. This planet is being delivered something new. Something you've never seen before. Brand new. Old soul, it affects you. Because now the responsibility is there when I'm telling you the salad's going to talk to you. And so is the chocolate. And it's going to remind you of what might happen. And that's all intuitive. We said this morning there'd come a day where politics would change and you'd know who was telling you the truth or who was faking. Or who would say one thing and do another. In other words, you could see through them. It's coming. I've told you before, there's going to be another system of democracy that's going to work better than yours. We told you it may not happen here first. Now, Americans don't like to hear that. But I think all Americans would tell you right now that they would agree. It's broken. There's a fight going on with your leaders who should be together right now, deciding the most integrity path of this country, and instead they're at war with each other. What could possibly change that? And I will tell you again, it won't happen here because it's too difficult to make changes. But in a society, in a culture that's going to start over, and there will be one, and we've told you even where, you can say, what can we do as a government that will take the best of the best from everybody and change it to be even better? And what they will do is this. They will have your government, but the president will not be a president that will be part of either party. They will elect a negotiator, a centrist, who sees good things on both sides and is able to pull them together, instead of the system you now have, which is winner take all for 4 years. That's out of the box, isn't it? And yet it makes sense to a lot of old souls sitting here listening to this. It's coming. Maybe not here first, but it's coming. And how would these things take place in a world like you live in? And so many would ask that with so much negativity, with so much control. That is where it gets good, dear ones, because I'm telling you that all of the corruption, all of the horror that has been laying under the hood for so long is going to pop its ugly head up and say, we're here. And whereas before, they always had a hiding place in power and money and influence, it won't make a difference because humanity won't allow it. We've told you of 2 or 3 very large things to expect. This is 2020. It's the first channeling series of the year, and so I'll state it again. There's going to be a change in the pharmaceutical industry. It may come as a movie, it may not, but definitely will involve whistleblowers who will start telling the public something that they suspected but didn't know, not really. That there are large conglomerates of inappropriate energy keeping people sick for money. Keeping people sick and letting them die for money. And names will be named, and it will be a revolution in medicine. Sexual slavery is on this planet and has been for a very long time. Dear ones, it goes back to the Greeks. It's been here for a very long time, and the privileged and the powerful and those with the money, they all funded it. It was their playground, and it still is. Not for long. There will be those who will see it when it's revealed and say, again, this entire world is doomed. Look at how dirty everything is. Look at what's going on, not understanding. It was always there. And now it's simply exposed so that you, old soul, can clean it up. This is what happens between old and new consciousness. We also gave you the information that there is a potential with a higher consciousness of integrating old and new, so that you don't have a situation where old energy has to fail. Then you have to go to zero and start over. That's an old paradigm, dear ones. That's black or white. What if I told you that there are systems and people who are going to help integrate the old and the new. So it might be difficult for a while, but it doesn't mean everything is going to fail in your country and start over. Integration is a word that is mature. Failure is not. You're maturing as human beings, and things are starting to be delivered to you by your own plan from the other side of the veil that you've needed for a long time. Stand by for multidimensionality. It's coming. Understanding it, seeing it, measuring it, and using it for humanity in ways you never thought possible that allow you to have plenty of food, to be warm when you need to be warm and cool when you need to be cool, without sacrificing any part of Gaia or the life forms thereof. It's all coming. I close with this. Everything I've said right now from this chair is not absolute. That's why you live today. That's why you're listening to this message, old soul. You've got work to do. And you might say, well, what is it that we need to do? There are new experiments. There's new things coming in something called the field, in coherence, in an understanding of the energy of consciousness you never had before. Pay attention to those things, because the old souls will have the ability to truly manipulate their consciousness to things that make a difference, especially collectively. Does thought have an effect on the planet? In an older time, there would be those who would laugh in your face. Oh, you're going to think somebody into health. Oh, you're going to think that's a situation you're going to help them with your mind, aren't you? And they'd laugh at you, pat you on the back, and send you away. And now the experiments are showing that consciousness is energy. It's a player of physics on the planet. I'll tell you what the field is, and this will only make sense to a few of you who have been here today. And it's controversial, but I'll say it. The field is the Torah code manifest. All the potentials of the planet are in the field. And that is available to a high consciousness human being. You don't have to go study it. You don't have to know the numbers. You don't have to know the gematria of it. It's available today. That is what the field is. All the potentials that exist, past, future, right now. And that's what you tap into with your intuition to help you navigate the energy of this planet in a way you never did before. That's what the old soul can do. Benevolence, integrity, those words are going to start to be the ones you look for in corporate, in politics. All of the things that were never there are going to start to be what I will call the gold standard. It's going to happen also in your belief systems. It will start cleaning themselves up to become more pure than that which they've always known is the love of God. They've always known. Welcome to a new earth, dear ones. As I speak to you on this day, and you look at the news and you say, well, I'm not really sure. Things are bigger than the news, dear ones. And what happens next and the consciousness that is involved and how you handle it is what we're talking about. Free choice with information from the salad and the chocolate. And so it is.
Nice full breaths in, integration breaths. This is a good time to begin that. And close your eyes and just allow and invite that inner silence, that inner peace, that place that you know that Spirit has the perfect plan for you. And when you leave, you take all of this information with you somehow. Maybe it's in your heart or your mind or your belly, but your cells have been listening. And that's a wonderful thing, because they talk to the other cells, and then they talk to the people that are in your field, and you can find all of the wonderful family around you. You can mirror their neurons. Find your brothers and sisters and a sacred family that is so special and so loved and so included in each other's field right now that there is one heart beating. Take a breath into that and just feel that. One heart beating, and it affects everyone. You feel that love, that appreciation, that gratitude, the caring, so that that one heart is nourished and nurtured and trusted to make the perfect decisions that honor your life, just as we here have honored your life this weekend.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I'll say it again for those who would say, well, we couldn't help but notice that the channeling was very, very quick here. And some will say, well, that's evidence it's not really channeling. Because everybody knows if you're going to channel, you have to take a lot of deep breaths and pant a while, face a certain direction, and eat a certain way. That's all changed, dear ones. For every single one here has this ability. I'm not talking about the one where you'd sit in front of an audience with a microphone. I'm talking about the ability to sense things beyond what you know. To have information that would not necessarily have come from the corporeal brain. That what is happening on this planet, very slowly, with the old souls specifically, has to do with free choice. This is the third channeling in a series of 3 regarding duality. For those who did not hear the first 2, there's a way to obtain them, an easy way. Look for it. And then you will have the startup to this finish. This is not a long message, but a profound one. We said to you that duality is not a negative word. That is not a struggle. Even though some would define it as a struggle, it is a gift. It is a God-given gift from the original source of your creation, which allowed you to choose. As the human being with sentience, intelligence, you could work the puzzle yourself and decide what energies you wish to gravitate toward. It's so easy to call it light and dark. It isn't. We call it the energy of appropriateness for your life. And you have that choice. The energy that is appropriate for your culture, for your planet, for your time. And those energies, they shift and they change. So it's not an easy choice, but it's a gift. So duality is not a struggle. It's a choice, a free one. But now suddenly you're in a time where the choices are starting to be easier because of something that we told you in the last channel. That you're starting to have help. If you want to call it help, go ahead. But it's you with you, dear ones. For suddenly that immensity of your soul that is part of you and always has been is allowed to give you an overview from the field, if you wish. From the potentials that are there, if you wish. In other words, your path is not a mystery any longer. But I want to give you 3 of the greatest choices that have changed. Now, the choice hasn't changed, but the perception of it and your ability to manifest it has. The first, free choice to define yourself. Now, you may not really understand that until I give you this information. If you sit and ask the question, who am I? There will be those who will tell you, well, you shouldn't ask that because you're already defined. So I want you to do a visualization with me for just a moment. You're standing there, looking in a mirror, wearing whatever your best outfit is, admiring yourself. And all the definitions of who you are, each one is on a yellow sticky note. And they will be placed upon your body. Where you were born, your culture, your language, let's go through them, is a sticky note. And these are the definitions of who you are. And they contain, by the way, how you will act, one with another, in your culture, in your language. All the traditions are there. The lineage is there. Your family is there. What they think about you is there. Sticky note, sticky note, sticky note, sticky note. Well, we didn't even get to the big ones yet. There are those organizations that you belong to who will also tell you who you are. If you've had trouble with something and joined an organization, then you are a sticky note, and there it is. Then, of course, there are the spiritual organizations who are quick to tell you who you really are. And there's a big sticky note that says, born dirty. It's on your forehead, if you want it. That's the big one. And so there you are, with perhaps hundreds of sticky notes. In the mirror, you're looking at yourself. Now I want to give you an invitation, and we're going to call it free choice to define who you are. And I want you to shake yourself like a dog does after a bath. And just shake and shake and shake and shake and let those sticky notes fall to the ground, because none of them are accurate. None of them. Not one. Not one. And then it begins. Who are you really? The question individually is, who am I? And you can start writing your own sticky notes, ignoring everything anybody has said. Ignoring those who would define you in a second because of the judgment that they might have in their eyes. But it's not your consciousness. You have the ability with free choice to define you. So let's put another big sticky note on your forehead. Born magnificent. You can start filling them in. I am love. Put it right here. I am compassion. Put it right here. I am healthy. Put it here. I am young. Put it here. And start putting these sticky notes all over yourself, because you are the only one who can define you. You might think, well, that's pretty obvious, Kryon. Well, if it's so obvious, why were all of those other sticky notes there? And why do you have a lack of self-worth, dear one? Do you ever think of that? Why would old souls on this planet, the ones who have the most information, the most experience, have the greatest lack of self-worth? I'm talking to a lot of people here. That's because you've been defined and you believed it. You believed it. Now it's time to understand with a new awareness that you are the only one who can use spiritual logic, science, all the things that you determine through your own mind who you are. And that's number one. Number two, free choice to determine your path. Now, you might think this is obvious. But again, We won't use sticky notes. This time, we'll just use that which you have heard or that advice which you've had, which goes into your mind because there are people you trust. And whether they've been parents, politicians, spiritual leaders, those in your profession, mentors, whatever, they've all had advice about your path. And that then becomes part of who you are. And that path is often determined by others. Now you say, well, I've chosen it myself. Yes, dear ones, you've chosen it through the advice of others. So really, who is doing the choosing? Well, Kryon, do you have an alternative suggestion? And here it is. You have a new communication ability. Many have called it the connection to the field. Access to potentials that when you start thinking about them, manifest themselves. Did you ever learn a new word that you'd never heard before in your life, and in the next week hear it 3 times? Did you realize you've created that? That is the best example I can give you for creating your own reality. You start concentrating on certain kinds of things, and up they occur. So here's my advice. Sit alone in a space of coherence with the Creator, where you're peaceful and happy. And if you're one that says, well, I'm not usually peaceful and happy, well, at least in those moments where you are. And ask one question. It's not really a question. Instead, it's a statement. Dear Spirit, show me what I need to know. And under the pretense that you're creating your own reality with your voice and your interest, the things will start to occur that need to be seen by you that will shape your path. The next thing, Spirit, bring me those who I will recognize as part of my path. And that, dear ones, is when the partnerships show up. And that, dear ones, is when romance happens or abundance starts to change in your life. Because that statement creates an energy of expectation. Have you heard that today from a scientist? That's the truth. You are so in control of your path. There are those who say, well, I'm having trouble with that because that it flies in the face of those that I loved and trusted who gave me information. Dear ones, I want to tell you something. Most of those were doing the best they could with what they had. Loving you so much, or appreciating you, or respecting you so much, giving you the best advice they had in an old energy. Do you understand? It doesn't make them wrong that you have chosen something else. Oh, there's 3 people right now in this room that had to hear that. That had to hear that. What you choose today is different than in an old energy. And if some of those who advised you a certain way are now past and over on the other side of the veil, right now I will tell you they're applauding and saying, listen to the guy in the chair. Because they know. They know. They're your cheering section. Number 3, you have the choice, free choice, to determine your own personal energy. What does that mean exactly, Kryon? What do you mean, my energy? You can call it whatever you want to. But when people stand around you, what do they feel? Consciousness is energy. What's your consciousness? What do they feel when they're next to you? Are you someone who has had trouble with fear? You're always afraid of something. That's not an indictment. That's a fact. You're a fearful person. Perhaps you're an a person who has anxiety over many things. You don't want to be that person, but that's who you are. Are you aware that you broadcast all of those things everywhere you are? You have the choice today to choose the energy that you are. And it can be done in so many different ways, and there'll be so many teachers telling you, well, here's how to do it. I'll give you the answer right now, just as you sit. That's your free choice. I choose to be peaceful. I choose not to have anxiety over the things I had before. I no longer will have my buttons pressed by others. It's like a lot of you had to hear that one today. Is it possible, by saying these things, that they will change? Dear ones, I didn't say to say them, did I? I said to assimilate them. They are you. That's your free choice to choose your energy. I choose not to fear. I choose to be so peaceful, I'll have wonderful peaceful sleeps at night. Because I'm allied with the creative source, and now I understand it. I understand it. What I visualize of who I am becomes reality. Where have you heard that before? These things which are spiritual today will become axioms of physics tomorrow. I am telling you a truism, that consciousness is energy, and therefore energy can be studied. And in this energy, there will be those who realize through quantum studies of multidimensional things how consciousness can come together in ways that it hadn't before. How you can use consciousness in the boardroom of a corporation. Not to enhance sales, but to enhance coherence with you and the people who work in the corporations. What a concept. I said it before. Can you visualize a day in a Congress far, far away where they stop for a moment, both sides, and create coherence? That day they would make the right decisions for those who trust them to make the decisions. And you would say, well, Kryon, that's on another planet. No, it isn't. That's in the field. If somebody had said, well, it's interesting, I never thought a Congress would stop and have prayer for anyone or anything. They do. They do. Whether they mean it or not, they got the concept. And there'll be a concept that comes flying in from science that says coherence is real, it changes things. Why don't you group together and make things work a certain way? With energy that nobody believed in 50 years ago, 20 years ago. This is the first of the series of channels for 2020. I want you to leave this place differently than you came, with ideas, potentials, and peace. And so it is.